Hey friends, Joel back with another super cool astrology video. I want to talk about the conjunction between the Sun and Saturn in a composite chart. What happens when we see this very interesting aspect between two people. So a composite chart is either the Davidson or the midpoint composite chart. They both work with these interpretations. And it's when we take two natal charts and we find the midpoints between the two, whatever method you're using to do that, and it produces a chart that gives us a blending between two people. How do you blend, and what kind of cake do you bake up when you put your ingredients into a bowl and mix them together? So the sun is the outer focus of a relationship. It's how the two identities blend, and has a lot to do with the purpose and the expression of the two people and what that takes. Saturn is the responsibility factor between two people, the long-term factor, the commitment factor, the boundaries that we adhere to. And within those boundaries, it informs us about what and who we are. And so it's about restriction and tradition and carefulness. And so when we have these two blending in a conjunction, in a composite chart, this is really interesting because the word for this is purpose. There is a purpose to this relationship and to being together. It's very karmic. We have come together to grow each other in some very painful ways sometimes. This can either be a very confining or very stabilizing and lasting relationship, depending on what it is you're made up of and what it is you're looking for. So how this one plays out largely really does depend on the responsibility and purpose factor in the two individuals. So you have to look at the natal charts to see, why is this even occurring? So there is a reason and a feeling of fate or purpose to being together. Your identities mesh in such a way that there's a feeling of being meant for something as an entity, as a blended entity. So how you actually end up relating to each other is going to change your expectations and initial assumptions about the purpose of the relationship. This is interesting because almost always we see an assumption regarding what it is, the long-term outlook is for this relationship and why it is that we are together. Generally, in the beginning, we have a pretty good sense of, what that is, and we're putting a label on that, but we tend to get a better sense of that. In fact, we tend to get that checked after a certain amount of time, and we've been actually interacting with each other, and the actual purpose is revealed to us about this relationship. So we find out generally some nasty things about our own selves when we have this particular conjunction, because the light of day, the conscious things about the two people, the sun, are very much illuminating the things of Saturn between them. So we can find out that we are restrictive. We can find out that we lack purpose. We can find out that we are irresponsible. We can find out that we are fearful or that we are paranoid. There is a way that we blend that will bring out the things about you that need to be corrected in order to have a better sense of personal responsibility in this lifetime. So there is an enormous amount of teaching that we do to each other when we have this conjunction. Enormous amount of teaching. We are essentially teachers to each other. And so when we can learn from our mate, we can learn from somebody that when we're in a relationship with, that gives enormous value to that relationship. or to that person that we're learning from. And as long as we are learning from them, generally the relationship is still considered of great value to us. And so, it's still giving us something. It's still causing us to grow. It's still enriching us. And so this particular conjunction can go either way, where it can either be very stabilizing and something that causes us to become more responsible in our own selves and our own lives, or it can be very confining and cause us to go the other direction and leave it off. And it really depends on what is appropriate for the two people. So I'll get to that in just a second, because I want to finish my point about the nasty things that we can find out about ourselves as a result of knowing each other, having a relationship with each other. So if we can learn from those nasty things that we find out about ourselves, if we can do something with it, if we can use it constructively, because we will spiral down very deeply into finding out some very stark truths about ourselves here with this one. If we can take that and do something with it, if we can make a change, if we can accept the criticism and use it to, correct our trajectory in life, if we use it positively, if we construct with it, it tends to be very, very beneficial to us personally. If we handle it a different way, if it's something that we react to with shame or embarrassment or with anger or with distance, then this obviously is not going to work for us. This is not a healthy expression between two people. And if this is showing up like that for you, if you're feeling very ashamed, if you're feeling very put upon, and because we have the ego and the identity between the two people mixing with the planet of the part of ourselves that we think knows best. There can often be a feeling of wanting to just crawl into a box because of what we have seen or what the other person has shown us about ourselves, or the what is going on between us. So if we're doing that, if we're reacting that way negatively, or in an embarrassed way or in a humiliated way, this is not going to work, because we're making each other feel bad about ourselves. So we have to accept that there's going to be some amount of that is automatic when we have this conjunction. That is one of the reasons why this relationship exists, is to show you some very serious things that are going on within your own self. So a lot of people don't even get to have this kind of relationship unless they are in a place of really needing you could say a karmic cleanup, or a personal wake-up call, or gotten to a place in their spiritual evolution where, it's crunch time, and, let's get serious about things, because you're getting really close to being, a truly, all-knowing, possibly enlightened being. A lot of times when we're in that place, when we're that accepting of our impending evolution, we can draw this kind of relationship to us, because it can offer us the opportunity for extreme amounts of insight into our own selves, because that's what relationships are doing. They are teaching us about ourselves. If we didn't have relationships, we wouldn't know much about ourselves, because we would only have our own opinion, and that doesn't go very far. So the self-esteem can suffer between two people when we have this conjunction, if they are handling it in a way that is not constructive, if they're not taking the difficulties that they're having pointed out to them as a result of the relationship and using that to build themselves into something greater. This becomes a very destructive relationship, and it's advised that we probably find something else that is going to work better for us. It can be very hard to leave a relationship like this, however, because we can feel very stuck together. this is one where it can be extremely stabilizing, and if it is, great. But if you find it confining, even though it is difficult to leave, it's one of those relationships where it will probably always be there in some form anyway. But we have to get responsible, and we do get responsible one way or the other. As a result of this relationship, we either become more responsible while we're in it, or we become forced to become responsible enough to leave it. It is an incredible opportunity of teaching between two people. And so it's sometimes one of the more important relationships of our lives, and is one that will cause us to, again, spiral down into very, very, very deep experiences of personal understanding as a result of the way that we teach each other in this relationship. So, I hope this was helpful. If it was, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthinaspectastrology.com. Yes, I do private consultation. I am mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon at Truth in Aspect Astrology. And please support me over on Patreon so I can make more videos for you more often. And I will be back super soon for more super cool videos. Bye-bye.